Welcome to RANT&REVIEW. I'm Dom.
And I'm Patrick.
And we're just going to talk about our top and bottom tier horror films.
We'll be talking about some horror films that we think are very good, some which split opinion, and a few that you stay away from.
The bottom end, the stale, wretched.
We'll get on to them later.
Yes.
So we'll start with The Conjuring.
Yeah, it was one of those things. I hadn't seen a lot of horror films. I'm not a huge fan of them, to be honest.
Yeah.
And I saw The Conjuring a few years ago, and it actually changed my opinion of horror films.
Yeah, I realised there can be good modern horror films.
There is such a thing as a good modern horror film, and we'd seen obviously Paranormal Activity. The first
Paranormal Activity, it holds up as horror for a little bit, but it's a bit boring.
The found footage thing is done. It's time to move on.
Yeah, Paranormal Activity 1, okay, fine, we'll leave that there.
But they couldn't leave it there.
Number 2, I thought was absolutely disgraceful.
I haven't even seen the second one.
We saw the third one together in the cinema.
We did.
The less said about it, the better.
Wretched piece of filth.
Absolutely. It's rotten.
There was a point where everyone in the theatre all laughed.
And I think that sums up a horror movie. If you're sitting there laughing.
You'd think the people making the film would watch it before they released it. If they'd all laughed at it, that was the point where they said, let's not put this film out there because it's just a joke.
What makes it so bad? The direction's very poor. The script is horrible.
So the horror is few and far between.
There's one jumpy bit, which was where some grannies came out of a closet or something.
But that's the bit when the film just fell apart.
Then
it made no sense.
And then it sort of started maybe getting a little bit scary, and then it just ended.
But that's the thing. The only positives you can talk about are the jump shocks. That's just an old trope.
Exactly.
It's done.
Anyway, back to The Conjuring. Conjuring was a very good horror movie. I think I saw it 3 times in the end.
I think I've seen it 3 times. Obviously,
slightly less scary each time,
of
as
course.
you've seen it before.
You get the jump shocks are all gone. But
it's not incredible. But for a horror movie, it's at the higher end of the spectrum.
Yeah, and I appreciate the fact they didn't go into making a modern horror film and thinking we've got to make this found footage, because you don't, because it's a tried and tested trope. It's time to move on from it.
Yeah.
Obviously, it started with Blair Witch Project.
Definitely, it started with the Blair Witch Project. Is a found footage film, and one of those films that up until the ending shows that it can be done well.
Yeah, I mean, as a found footage film, if that's what it does found footage. It does it extremely well. I think it holds up really well all the way through the film. There were bits of genuine terror.
The whole film had a very tense feel to it.
It was very tense, and some of it was really kind of harrowing.
Yeah, and it's a film that has split a lot of opinion.
Mainly ours.
Because it's good, very good up until the ending.
The very end.
It let me down. Yeah. You didn't like it either.
For me, the definition of an anticlimax.
It had all this movie which was building up to this big conclusion.
And it didn't capitalise on any of it. It just ended it like they didn't know what to do for the end, and that was it.
But I thought the black and white work, it worked very well.
For certain elements, yeah. But it's okay. Going back to modern horror films, it follows. This is, again, it's split opinion. Some people like it, some people don't. I thought it was great. I wasn't just impressed, I was surprised, because you see the posters for it and you think this is going to be just another typical...
a teenager kind of horror, silly,
house
stupid
at the end of the
film.
Street, there's a girl in it, she's blonde, she's being terrorised, there's a ghost, everyone dies at the end, you can spit it out in your sleep. But I was so surprised.
I was very, very surprised. The direction was very, very good.
Yeah.
The way you're always constantly looking at the whole screen, because there's different bits of horror in the background which kind of keeps your eye going.
For me, the thing that made the film was the direction. I mean, the acting was amazing. The soundtrack was something else. It was really steeped in kind of 80s kind of techno synth, but it just worked so well.
And it had a good conclusion, I thought. I thought the ending was good.
Yeah, I thought it ended at the perfect point,
really
in
good
the most perfect way.
So if you're looking to watch a modern horror movie and you're not sure what to watch, definitely
give that a go.
Give that a go.
I can't praise it enough. I thought it was really good.
So if we're going slightly older film, we'll look at, a lot of you may not have heard of it, Don't Look Now.
Don't Look Now is one of those lesser known horror films, I think, which we went into it thinking, it's supposed to be quite good, we'll give it a go. It was genuinely, I think there's something about old horror films, the way they're filmed, the way they sound.
It's one of those films I watched it ended, I thought, okay, that was good, and then I went back, and it's one of those things you reflect on, and you think, actually, that was very good.
There are so many clever links in there, and yet the old style adds to the horror of it.
The setting really, in Venice was very, very good.
It's really unnerving, some moments in it.
There was a constant theme of red throughout the film.
Yeah.
Which relates back to, well, if you watch it, you'll see. So even like people in the street, red coat, red jumper.
And you start looking out for these things, these little hints and these themes all running all through the film.
And it links right through to the ending, and the ending is freaky. I was freaked out by the ending.
Yeah, it was kind of bizarre, but it sort of worked. It kind of ties everything together and brings everything together.
It's a very well thought through film. It's not the best horror movie I've ever seen. It's clever.
Good performances by a young Donald Sutherland.
There's not many plot holes at all, like a lot of modern horror films.
It's quite a sort of simple story, but there's a lot of tension in it. And
there is. But again, it will split opinion. But if you're looking for something different to watch that you've never seen before,
from that kind of era,
Don't Look Now is a very good shout.
Because obviously, better known ones around that time, The Exorcist.
Well, The Exorcist is just brilliant. Absolutely brilliant horror movie.
It's a masterpiece.
I think it's fantastic, considering how old it is and, well, how famous it now is because of it was controversial.
The effects, I think, still hold up well. They've still got that sort of 70s, 80s tint to it, but that kind of adds to it.
Yeah. I think it's absolutely fantastic. I think it's a very good film.
It is done really well. It's genuinely harrowing.
It's solid horror movie. Again, for me, that's probably maybe 8.1.
It's one of those classic films you just have to watch, really. Going back even further, like Psycho.
Now, Psycho, it's regarded as one of the best horror movies ever made. We really enjoyed it up until the sort of ending.
That's when
silly.
When a film starts showing its age,
yeah,
it is a shame because obviously at the time it was probably regarded as something of a masterpiece. Obviously, Alfred Hitchcock is one of the greatest, most famous directors of all time. Things like Rear Window. Rear Window is one of my favourite films.
Rear Window is absolutely brilliant.
Then Psycho doesn't quite hold up in some places for me.
I don't want to say it, but it's my opinion. It's just slightly overrated.
Yes, I'd actually agree with you there because it's just showing its age, not just in how it was made. The bit where he fell down the stairs.
That's the bit for me that...
Again, it is laughable because
of
its age.
And that's when I find myself laughing at bits of a horror movie. I don't feel like the horror movie's done its job. It's a controversial film to slate because it was an absolute masterpiece.
And good performances.
I'm not taking that away from it.
I mean, we won't talk about the antagonist because obviously you don't find out who it is really until the end. But the antagonist, the actor, is really, really good.
It's a good all-round horror movie.
It's a classic. It's one of those ones like The Exorcist. You sort of owe it to yourself to watch.
Either you'll accept the fact that it's old, you won't like it, but give it a go. It's definitely worth a watch. On to The Babadook.
Yes. It's obviously back into the more modern horrors now.
Yep.
It is one of those lesser known ones, I think. It came out of New Zealand. And again, really pleasantly surprised by
this is actually one of my favourite horror movies. So I think it's absolutely brilliant.
It's really, really well done.
The horror is held up very, very well.
Yeah, it has those kind of underlying classic horror tropes it reuses, but in a really modern way. And the enemy, you never quite know what it is, so it's still scary.
There's only a few characters in the whole film.
Yeah, but that's all you need. It really kind of strips it back and it pairs it back to this.
And I thought the horror held itself up very well. They didn't show you too much of the Babadook, but they showed it at the right times. There are scenes where you will be holding your breath. You'll be very nervous on the edge of your seat watching it.
Yeah.
Don't watch it on your own. We chose to watch it at 2 a.m.
in the dark.
I couldn't sleep for about an hour afterwards, and the acting is fantastic.
Yeah, and again, another pleasant surprise we have to talk about. The Gift.
Well, it's difficult. Do you class it as a horror movie? Do you not?
Is it a thriller? Is it horror?
It's a bit of both. Yeah, this is absolutely brilliant.
It is a really good film, regardless of what category it falls in. It's still a really good.
I couldn't believe that there is a big twist in it, and I couldn't believe it. Really,
it's a dark story.
It's a dark story, but we're not going to give any spoilers away. But if you're looking for a great film to watch on a Friday night, this is the one to watch. It is gripping and it's brilliant.
Yeah, written and directed by Joel Edgerton, who does a fantastic job in it as well. All around, Jason Bateman. It's nice to see him in a role that isn't just.
It's very very good to see him, and it shows that he does have more to his, his acting.
He does have an acting range.
He does. We know he's a great actor, but this shows a completely different side to his acting.
That's a genius bit of casting, and altogether is a really
And when you come out of a horror, / thriller. At the ending, just sort of speechless in a way. It ties together so well. It's very tight, very well directed.
You really contemplate everything you've seen afterwards, which is what you want when you come out of a film.
We'll just quickly talk about one of our personal favourites, which a lot of you may not have heard of.
It is a relative unknown.
Yeah, Kill List.
Kill List by Ben Wheatley. It is...
Ben Wheatley is there's only one Ben Wheatley, let's put it that way.
There is only one of Ben Wheatley, and in our eyes, certainly, he is a bit of a genius.
He is an absolute genius. I mean, split opinion. Many of you will watch this and think, okay, I'll give it a go. You'll absolutely hate it. It'll be the worst thing you've ever
rubbish.
seen.
It's meaningless.
Others of you who look into sort of the deeper story of the film, you'll think, what an absolute masterpiece.
It is what you make of it, and I think we definitely make of it, as in it is a masterpiece. It is something, it's genius. It's something that's not been done before.
It's complete. The first half of the film is just weird, and there's a very tense atmosphere. You're just trying to work out what's going on.
It almost defies categorization. You don't know whether it's a horror, a thriller, but it is truly terrifying. Some of it
oh my word. It's gripping.
It is so tense,
and some of it's horrible to watch, but
shocking.
in a good way.
It's a shocking film, but not in a bad way at all.
And in the second half of the film, it will just completely blow your mind.
Yeah, you feel this kind of this ebbing, this kind of tension just building all the way through the film.
The atmosphere Ben Wheatley creates in this film is absolutely terrifying.
And it's so rewarding to go back and watch it again.
Yeah.
When you see the hints, the themes.
Once you work out there's very subtle hints through the film, which is why it's so clever. Can you pick up on them? Well, that would define whether you like the film or not, really.
It is stunning. We first watched it and we were in shock.
Yeah, we didn't know how to review it.
We just thought, is this a 5.4 or is it a 9.12? We just didn't know.
It is an absolutely fantastic film. If you again want to watch something completely different that you've never seen anything like before, this is the film for you.
Look up Kill List and let us know what you think.
We're going to look at some slightly less good films very briefly.
The lower end of the spectrum now.
So we'll start with Shutter, which I actually haven't seen. So
it's just a film about a guy who is on holiday, or I think he's doing some work in Japan, I believe, with his girlfriend, Rachel Taylor, Australian actress. Does a good job in it. There's not a lot of tension. There's not a lot of actual horror. The actual resolution is very kind of convoluted. It is so weak. If you could describe a film by saying it's weak, it would be Shutter. Shutter is a weak film.
Stay clear of that.
Yeah, definitely don't bother with that.
Yeah, well, onto a similar kind of rotter. We're going to look at The Pact. I was excited for it because I'd never really heard a lot about it. I just went into it thinking, well, it's a new film. Let's have a little watch. Didn't know a lot about the film. After about half an hour in, I just thought, this is really, really poor. I really hope it picks up. It never did. It got worse. It's on a really small scale. I can't even remember the full plot. It's pretty miserable. The acting is not great. The atmosphere they create in the house, it's got potential, but it's a kind of typical horror movie, old house. And by the ending, it's rubbish. It's rubbish. There's no more to say on it. Don't watch it. You haven't seen The Call, have you?
I haven't seen it.
It's a thriller / horror. This will completely split opinion. It's a very easy watch. And the first hour is quite enjoyable. Halle Berry sort of plays this sort of phone assistance woman, and
who, for all intents and purposes, is a good actress. She's done some good work.
She's done some good film. As the film goes on, it's actually quite enjoyable. There's some tense moments in the first hour.
I think Abigail Breslin is one of those child actors who's done quite well. She's actually quite
she's not a bad actress at all. But as the film goes on, you're thinking, where's it going to go? And then gets the last half an hour. And my God, I think it's in my top 3 worst endings I've ever seen. I've never seen anything so pathetic and stupid in my life. It is rubbish. It's absolutely awful. It ruins anything that was good about the film, which wasn't a huge amount in the first place. And it would put me off ever trying to sell this film to anyone. And the final one we're going to talk about is one that actually splits our opinion slightly.
So Paddy's in the boat that this film is actually quite good, and I'm in the boat I'm just not sold on it. The Descent. So these women go on holiday together. When we're explaining it, you can maybe see why I'm in one boat.
I think it's very well directed, and I think the first half of the movie, there's no actual monsters, there's no actual horror, and I think it's directed very well because it's gory, and I was very tense watching it, and considering it's just 5 girls in a cave with no actual monsters, I think it's very tense for the first hour. Then sort of monsters start appearing and jumpy bits. So those of you who like jumping at horror movies or being on the edge of your seat, you will really enjoy this film. The monsters, I think they're a little disappointing, and they do take away slightly from the horror, but certainly the first hour and 15 minutes of this movie is very, very tense. It's very on edge. Over to you.
I think what you explained about how it's genuinely very tense, the way it's filmed, directed and acted, and the storyline in the first hour before the monsters turn up is exactly why I think it isn't a very good film, because it's a bit of a convoluted, contrived storyline in the build-up to their cavernous holiday they decide to go on. There are genuinely moments of high tension. You genuinely don't know what's going to happen to these women. You can feel it building to something, but then it builds to these 5 fairly realistically portrayed women, these realistic, believable characters, suddenly finding some monsters that are a bit like Gollum in some caves, and then suddenly they have to fight them. I think it would have worked better if there were more hints throughout the whole of the film that these things were going to appear and they knew they were going to have to fight them, but there are a couple of hints in the 10 minutes before they appear, and suddenly the whole film changes tact and it just becomes a completely different film, and there are all these monsters running around. The ending for me was quite well done.
I think it's a good ending.
It's not what you expect. And
thank you for listening.
Yeah, tune in next time. See you later.